Hi guys, Neil Waterhouse. Received a question from Jordan Lennox asking why we don't use AliExpress as one of our dropship suppliers. A great question, Jordan. There are three parts to this answer which most dropship beginners don't realise. And also, I'll cover what we use instead of AliExpress at the end of this short video blog. Now, the first big problem with using AliExpress for dropshipping, of course, especially these days, is the slow delivery times from China and Asia. Yes, in a perfect world, companies like FedEx, DHL, etc. can deliver a parcel to your customer from, say, China in 3 business days. However, we don't live in a perfect world. Even before COVID-19, delivery times from Asia, they were random at best. I've been importing from China for over 30 years, as well as Malaysia, Vietnam, USA, Europe, and I could literally write a book about all the reasons why our shipments over the last 30 odd years have been delayed. And the reason is there's so many variables. If your supplier's in, say, China, how long does it take for a courier to pick up the parcel and get it booked into the network? How far away is your supplier from the courier depot? How far is the depot from the airport? How many times does the package need to change hands before it gets to the airport? How long does it take for customs in, say, China to clear the parcel before it can leave the country? Other things is, when is the next flight? When the flight arrives to your buyer's country, what is the delay in local customs? Then when it's released from customs, are there any delays with local deliveries? And then you can throw in things like volcanic ash and the multitude of other things that can go, or that can delay international shipments. And that was before COVID-19. Now, since COVID-19, of course, there are far fewer passenger flights to and from Asia, and those missing passenger flights every day, they used to also carry cargo before COVID-19. If you're dropshipping on eBay or Amazon, and or your own website like a Shopify store, buyers will not tolerate deliveries that take weeks to arrive. This is the first reason why we only use local suppliers for dropshipping and not AliExpress. Now, don't get me wrong, we still do importing. We've been importing for over 30 years. But for dropshipping, whether it's in Australia, USA, Canada, UK, etc., we only use local suppliers. And what I mean by local suppliers, if you dropship inside the UK, using suppliers in the UK. If you're dropshipping in Australia, use only Australian-based suppliers. Now, if you're stuck finding local suppliers, I'll also put a link at the end of this video to a previous week's video showing step-by-step how to find local suppliers in virtually any country, or certainly all the first world countries, that's for sure, and all the 37 different countries like companies like eBay and Amazon are in. Now, the second reason we do not use AliExpress as a dropship supplier is that shipping by air is horrendously expensive, which is why you can normally only use companies like DHL and FedEx to ship small items. As an example, a box the size of, say, of a shoebox will cost you around $100 US to ship from, say, China to Australia. This is why most dropship sellers only ship small items by air. And this leads to the third big issue. Most dropship beginners all focus on small, cheap, lightweight items. I've been selling online for over 20 years and teaching people how to sell online for over 15 years now. And the one thing that I hear all the time over and over from beginners is that they only want to sell small, cheap items and also lightweight items. Items like, iPhone cases, USB cables, etc. But here's the big problem with that. Not only are you competing with all the other beginners selling small, cheap, lightweight items, but you're also competing with all the Chinese suppliers who can also ship these items from China using DHL and FedEx. Now, the good news is the Chinese and AliExpress sellers can only dropship small items by air. They cannot dropship larger items. As the cost of air freight is just simply too prohibitive. This is why we stay clear of these small, lightweight, cheap items from AliExpress. A lot of people think that it's much harder to dropship a large item, but with dropshipping, your dropship supplier does all the shipping for you. So it does not make any difference if the items are as small as a pair of reading glasses or as large as a canoe. Your supplier does all the shipping, not you. It also makes more sense to sell more expensive items, seeing as you get paid first with dropshipping before you purchase the item from your supplier. Why not sell something where you can make, $40 or $100 profit on a sale as opposed to $2? Another big advantage of using local suppliers is you get local support if you have any warranty issues. The thing to note though is some people like the business model of selling huge amount of cheap items, that make small profits. That's fine. We're all different and that's okay. Personally, I prefer to sell high margin items. You can achieve exactly the same amount of profit by selling many small lightweight cheap items from AliExpress as you can with selling a much smaller quantity of larger locally supplied items. Let's say your goal is to make, say, $4,000 profit per month after all expenses. If you want to sell items that make, say, $2 profit per sale, you'll need to sell around 2,000 items per month, or around 66 items per day to make the $4,000 profit per month. If you're selling larger items that make, say, $40 profit per sale, you'll only need to sell 100 items per month to make the same $4,000, which is just over 3 items per day. Now, as I said before, there's no right or wrong here. Both strategies generate the same amount of profit. Some people prefer the high volume, low profit items like iPhone cases, and that's fine. Others prefer to sell items that weigh 500 grams or more and make higher profits. I always try to figure out where the beginners are and go the other direction. However, the big difference when using local suppliers is you have much more control of delivery times. If you use local suppliers, you can repeatedly give your buyers a much better experience over and over. Now, if you're having any problems finding local dropship suppliers, again, I'll put a link on the screen and below to a previous week's video showing how to find local dropship suppliers. That's it. I hope this video helped you with showing you why we don't use AliExpress for dropshipping. That's all for this week. Please scroll down and leave me a comment below. And while you're there, make sure you hit the subscribe button for more no fluff, hints and tips and automation strategies to make money on eBay and Amazon without leaving the comfort of your own home. Until next week, stay safe, list more, sell more. This is Waterhouse.